to another episode of Pixel Power Hour. I'm Shivangi. I'm the community manager here at FilterPixel. For those of you who are new here, let me tell you what FilterPixel is. We're an AI culling and editing software, and we help you save your time so you can spend your time focusing on things that matter and you love the most. Okay, so today we're doing another episode of Pixel Power Up. So I have Tiffany Bastian with me, who's also the CEO of Bastian Accounting. She's doing accounting and taxes for photographers, and she has a whole team to help you as well. I'm just going to let her on here and she can actually introduce herself. Hello,
Hello. Hello, how are you?
I'm
Right.
good.
Yeah.
How about
So
you?
I'm good. I'm good. It's Friday. It's a long weekend here in the States. We have 4th of July. So
Yeah, I absolutely forgot about that. That's amazing.
yes, no, it's great. Yeah, so I'm Tiffany Bastian. I'm the owner of Bastian Accounting. We have been in business for 10 years, and for the last 4, we've been working specifically with photographers. We just find that working with a specific niche like this, we're able to really become experts on all of the things, especially the taxes and the sales tax, which we'll talk about today, which is different in every state and very confusing. But we really love to just, we're able to help photographers. We meet them where they are, We have a lot of, free guides, and then we have courses to kind of help build some foundations, but we also do have full-on services where we do everything for our clients all the way through taxes and tax planning. So we kind of have a wide range of things that we offer, but it's only for photographers. So it's very, very targeted so that we can help you guys go deeper and really understand so many things about your business. And I have a team. I have a wonderful team. We're all over. So we actually work with clients all over the United States. I should say I am an EA, which is an enrolled agent. In the States, we have CPA, which a lot of people know. But an EA is accredited through the IRS. So it's like a federal accreditation versus a CPA is really just state by state. Meaning I can work with anybody in any state. So that kind of gives us some freedom to move around the country, if you will. But we do have clients all over, and my team is also remote all over. So, I love it. And it's an all virtual situation. We do a lot of things through apps. So our busy clients I'm sure many of you, even being here today, I know it's super busy time for a lot of photographers. So being able to join today is awesome because I think they're in the crux of their busy season right now. And so, being able to help with those ebbs and flows and everything. But yeah, I'm excited to be here to talk about taxes. I think people, hear that word and they cringe, but I'm here. I promise we're going to make it fun and interesting. And it doesn't have to be so complicated and sound so mundane. So hopefully I can bring some excitement to the word tax today.
Absolutely, absolutely. So when Tiffany and I were preparing for it, we kept in mind that this should cater to all the beginner photographers as well. So if you're just starting out and are really confused that how should I really get started, when does my business really have to start paying taxes, when does this really set up, or even if you're into your business and still figuring out few nooks and corners, that's absolutely okay. There would be a lot of terms, to be honest, that I wouldn't understand in this life, but that's why I have her with me. So just so she can actually clarify. I always have tons of questions. If you've seen our previous lives, I have tons of questions for each and every expert, apart from what audience usually, does. So
Mhm.
today is the day when I'm actually going to, pick your brain so much that I want everybody in the audience to get the most out of it. So if anybody in the audience also has any starting questions about taxes, accounting, how you managing it right now, let us know and be getting started on the side as well. Okay.
Absolutely.
So Tiffany, you can go ahead and give a bit of an introduction about what we'll be
Yeah.
talking about. Yeah.
Yeah, so we're gonna kind of talk about the different taxes because I think it's overwhelming because you hear tax, but it actually pertains to a couple different kinds of taxes. So what are those, and kind of
Yeah.
when do they apply to you, and what do you need to know? I want to get things on your radar so that you're like, okay, I have a little checklist of things I need to understand better. Um, and then we'll talk about let me scroll down my little outline. We're going to talk about business structure
Okay.
and how that plays into taxes and such. And then talk about documenting your expenses and how you need to keep track of all those things. I'm going to give you some tips on like some really super simple things you can do up front
Yeah.
that will just save you so much time in the end. And then we will talk about business and personal keeping things separate, what that looks like. And some of my tips will go along with making that easier for you as well. And then we can answer questions. And we have a couple other questions here. We'll talk about some contractors, like what that looks like if you're working with them. Sometimes you might be contracted because you're just starting out. So maybe you contract other photographers. So what does that look like? I'm
And I think
skimming all the
collaborations
tax
and
stuff.
photos
No
as
worries. It's
well.
second orders, all that stuff. But yeah, we'll cover all of that stuff. I can, when we kind of dive in and get started here, I can.
Yep. I think so. The first
Okay.
and foremost question would be like, what kind of different taxes are there and can affect your business, and like, what's the exactly list of taxes that we need to consider at this point?
Yeah, you got it. So the first thing I want to tell you guys though is like, I think this happens actually in all entrepreneurs really, but I see it every day with photographers as well, is that, some people are really successful, things take off, everything's awesome. Maybe you're making really good money too, and you're like, you can't believe it, but then you feel sort of like a fraud, or like, oh my God, like I don't understand this other part. It's often the thing that waits, people wait till tax season or until they get a notice or they see something in a Facebook group that like triggers them and they're like, oh my God, I didn't realize I need to do this. So just know that this is normal for everyone starting out. A lot of people they start a business and it just happens really quickly. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, hit the brakes. This is a business. I'm supposed to like do taxes and do I need to be an LLC? So I'm here to just tell you, like, take a deep breath, have grace with yourself. It's okay. Everybody starts from somewhere. It's okay. We can get this all taken care of. So there's 4 taxes to think about. So there's federal income tax, which everybody in the states is familiar with, and everybody in the states has to pay it based on their earned income. That's what you do in January when taxes are due. That is federal income tax.
Okay.
At that same time, some states, most states, I think except for, I want to say 9 states, have state income tax. So at that same time, you're filing to the IRS and you're filing to your state, reporting any earned income and paying taxes on that. Another piece of that is in those taxes, you're going to pay income tax on your income, right? Income tax is what it means. You also pay something called a self-employment tax. So it's like, I guess because you're successful and you figured it out, you get to pay a little bit more than everybody else. So what happens is this self-employment tax, and I don't want to get too lost in the woods here, but like when you work for somebody else, they take out Social Security and Medicare for you out of your paycheck. Well, when you work for yourself, no one's doing that for you. So when you get to the age to collect Social Security or Medicare, there is no funding for you. So by forcing you to pay this tax called self-employment tax, they're taking that money and putting it in there for you. So it is getting covered. And I'll give you, that's 15.3%. Just that. Okay. Just that one tax. Okay. Your income tax for federal and state are based on your income bracket. So that can be anywhere from like 12 to 37%. And then you have, kind of separately, but still the word tax, is sales tax, which is the one you deal with every single day. So every single state has sort of like this fee for you to do business in their state. And in almost every state, there's a couple that don't require it, but everyone should do it, is you get to charge that to your customer. And then you collect it from the customer, and then you have to file and remit it. Sales tax, depending on your state, it might be, and depending on your volume of income, it might be due monthly, it might be quarterly, it might be annually. I do have my free sales tax guide, which gets really into the nitty gritty to understand this, because there's a lot of pieces, like how much do I charge? What's the rate that I charge? What's taxable? Those things are different for every state. In my guide, I have every single state in there, and we actually keep that up to date. We're about to revamp it too. It's going to look beautiful soon. But we update that. We actually use that internally for all of our clients. And we use an actual sales tax system to populate the information and publications in there. But yeah, so sales tax is one of those things a lot of people don't know about, that you have to register with your state to get something called a sales tax certificate. And then you need to charge based on the rules, thinking about the categories. What do you do? Most photographers have services or sitting fees, or we can call it like a session fee. They have digital prints, they have physical prints, physical goods. So in a lot of states, physical goods are taxable in almost every state. If it has sales tax, there's 5 states that don't have sales tax. Digital goods, this is the crummy part. Like they're really figuring out that everybody's doing digital. So a lot more states are starting to tax digital. In fact, Maryland started taxing digital in the middle of March of 2021. Just now we had to change everything we were doing because they get it. That's where states make 90% of their income is sales tax. So they want their money. But there's registering for sales tax, and they're going to tell you when you're going to file. They'll let you know, okay, you're filing monthly. And if you have, there's thresholds. If it's a low threshold, they might have you file every year. But maybe your business starts growing, they'll actually send you a letter. They'll tell you when you need to start doing quarterly or annually. This is probably the biggest pain point that every client we have comes to us. We have people come to us who are like, I've been collecting it. I'm not sure it's right. I never paid it. I haven't registered. So just know this is one of those things. But if you get that guide, I feel like it does simplify. It walks you through the things you need to understand and the questions to ask yourself for each situation so you can figure out what's taxable and not taxable. But important to note that's a state sales tax too. So not to be confused with the federal income tax.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm telling you, right? Like, I feel like people say taxes, and then when you start quantifying how many different ones there are, they're like, whoa, 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 whoa.
No,
Or I've had people
absolutely.
confuse them and think they're the same thing, and they're not. So they want your money.
I mean, I can just imagine if the names and the types are so confusing, what would be when we deeper dive into it and actually, like, of course, calculation part is a separate thing altogether, but the
Yeah,
deductions, all of the things which are considered in what category, all of all of these things are so overwhelming. So I always consider getting an expert for
oh,
it, just like
absolutely.
you.
And I think
Yeah.
sometimes people think, well, I'll forget it will go away. It will not go away.
Well,
I guarantee you it will not go away.
one thing that will not go
Um,
away so easily.
Right. And something I could add here a little bit is something that we help clients with is called a VDA. So if you're in a situation where maybe you didn't know this and you've been in business or maybe you created an LLC last year but you had no idea about sales tax, you can work with the state to say, okay, please forgive me. I didn't know this. Here's my sales. I want to catch up. And then they will work with you to say, okay, we're going to catch you up. You have to sign a note that says you're going to pay on time from now on, and they won't charge you fees or penalties. Like you can kind of get a fresh start. So there are options if you're
Ah, okay.
behind, but it's never cut. Very rarely do I find people who got everything set up right the first time. So it's totally normal.
Makes sense.
Um, Oh, and
Okay.
there's a good question here, which I
Yeah.
think kind of goes into what we were talking about next. Um,
Okay, so let me just go ahead with the next question and I can, we
yeah,
can take this.
yeah,
So, of course, the question is actually similar to whosoever asked. So, it's basically like, when do you start being a business or LLC and start paying taxes? And also, follow up question to this is a lot of people who doing photography part time and not really full time because they have a full time job on the side. So, how do you structure your taxes in that end? Follow up with the question which Nick asked in the comments as well.
yeah. So the first thing that some people are surprised by, but you got to know, is the second that you do anything, photography or not, and you are trading a service or product for
Okay.
money, it could be 2 cents. You have now become a sole proprietor. Like there's no registration to become a sole proprietor. That is earned income. So you
Hmm.
are earning income. You now need to report that income on a Schedule C, which is part of a tax return. So if you have to do that, one, you better be tracking expenses because I guarantee you have them. So you don't want to just pay on that. You want to make sure you get your deductions, which we'll talk about in a minute. But essentially, the second that you take money, whether and there's this idea of a hobby. So you cannot just say you're a hobby. You have to prove that you're not doing this for profit, which is very
Okay.
hard to do. And then you can never make your hobby a business. So you really need to, as soon as you receive money, you are technically a business. You are a sole proprietor. Later on, you could do the LLC stuff and all that, but you need to claim that income. If you have a loss 3 of 5 year in a 5 year increment, the IRS may send you a letter to say, we are going to deem this a hobby. You need to prove that you're trying to make a profit. Otherwise, they will no longer let you take that, deduct those deductions and claim and change that stuff around. So a lot of businesses, especially during COVID, like they have losses in a certain period of time. So it takes a lot for them to tell you, but they will tell you when they think you're a hobby. So I have definitely seen in Facebook groups where people are like, oh yeah, blah, blah, blah. This is just my hobby, but they're taking money and that's not. That's not true. And I'm sorry. I want you to know I am on your team. I'm just here to speak the message from the IRS so you guys can be compliant. I'm just the messenger. But yes. And so there really is no income level. It's one penny, really, to say the second you take anything, you want to start tracking it, even if it's in a spreadsheet. And then make sure you're tracking any expenses that are anywhere related to what you're doing with the photography stuff. Let me just check here, make sure I addressed all these things. Did I?
Gotcha. 1 second.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And put it
Okay.
on
And
hold.
so I'm just making sure, even with the part-time stuff, same thing.
Okay.
You don't have to be an LLC. LLC is just an option for you to get limited liability with your state. It actually doesn't change anything about your business except limited liability and the name you're calling it. It doesn't change how
Oh,
the tax, doesn't change the tax forms. It doesn't change anything.
got it.
It just gives you liability that if you had a bridezilla and she gets mad and she sues you and some miracle she wins, now
Okay.
they come to you and they can take things, but only assets in
Mhm.
the business name. The
Oh,
problem here is a lot
okay.
of people create LLCs and then they mix their business and personal funds together. And when you do that, if you're in court and the attorney could say, they could prove out your finances and show that you don't treat your money, business, personal separately. You can Google this term, but it's called piercing the corporate veil, which is what an LLC is, like a limited liability company. It gets those corporation rules. They can say you didn't treat your company as separate than your personal finances or assets. So now we're going to have everything. Like now we don't, now they just get rid of it. Your LLC doesn't matter to them anymore. And now they can go through to all your money. And this is 1 in a million billion chance, but just the worst case scenario to know, like the LLC, especially when you file LLC, you really want to keep everything separate. If you could do it from the beginning, that's even better. It's going to help you later. And we'll talk about that like a little bit about how that can help you stay organized at tax time.
Okay. So Nick is basically like now mixing
No,
stuff. How would you?
totally. This is part of it. How do you pay yourself? So real briefly, you have sole proprietor. That's just you doing business. And when you become a sole proprietor, your business takes on your name and your social security number is the tax ID. So you would be Nick Boyd with your social security number, and you would just take something called an owner draw. This is transferring money from your business account to your personal account, and it does not touch your P&L. It doesn't go on your profit and loss. It's not an expense to your business. It's just money on the balance sheet. And financials are a whole other thing. But I will invite you maybe to the YouTube channel. I do teach a lot of this stuff. It's super because I know I get into this and I know this in my sleep. So forgive me. I want to keep it simple, but your balance sheet is literally just your assets and liabilities. So, and your equity in the company. So all you're doing is taking equity out of your company when you pay yourself. So that's sole proprietor. That's for an LLC. Maybe you're a DBA. You can go register doing business as name if you want to rename your sole proprietor, or you can have DBAs a bunch under an LLC. The big thing is here, there's something called an S corporation, which we make most of our clients just because it's so beneficial for them tax-wise. When you're an S corporation, you have to be on actual payroll with a salary in your company. And this is what we help a lot of our clients with, monitoring all that stuff, because now you are an expense to your company. And this gives you control over the bottom line. And guess what else? When you're an S corporation, you don't pay self-employment tax anymore. That we talked about, that gets scratched off because now
Right.
you have a separate entity that's for your business from you. But I would say, because this is always the next question, is if you are profiting 2,500 to 3,500 a month consistently, to consider S corporation, because if you look at your income minus expenses, that's your
Okay.
net income. Whatever that number is, let's say it's $30,000, that could have been your profit and your company would be zero, breaking even. So I always think of it like that when I talk about S Corp. But I do have some S Corp stuff too on the YouTube channel that breaks it down with not so much my hands, like having some visual icons to show you what these things are. But so your business structures are, again, sole proprietor. You can do LLC. You have to be an LLC to become an S corp, so you have to do that. But you can just be an LLC that's not an S corp. A DBA lets you basically still stay a sole proprietor and name your business something else. It gives you no liability coverage. It's just saying, hey, my name is Sue Smith and I want to be ABC Photography.
Okay.
And it gives you tax ID. So maybe you don't want your social security number on everything. So now your DBA can have a tax ID. However, you can also have DBAs under an LLC. A lot of my clients will do like, Sue Smith photography, but they have boudoir. So they have a boudoir DBA, and then they have like a wedding DBA. So they have different brands that
Okay.
all roll up on the same tax return, same tax ID. It's just broken out. Sometimes because payment processors, I'm sure people have run into this, where sometimes when it's boudoir, they kind of think it's like pornographic, and they will Square cut a bunch of people off and took their money. And so just they use this other name, but the business still
Okay.
rolls up. That's another thing to think about.
So does it like work as a subsidiary when you're putting out like let's say different branches under it, or how does that work?
Yeah, totally. You can do it just like that, and you can do your books that way.
Mhm.
They'll get recorded that way together.
Okay.
But then this way you can kind of have the branding different. Or if for you financially it doesn't matter, you want it all to go together, but this lets you have like a different name and brand for each of those things, but still have one tax return for them.
Okay. And also, like, let's say while we talking about having different brands under one thing, let's say there are photographers who are also doing coaching and earning money from that, and they're also, let's say, being a virtual assistant or doing any other, like, there's another source of income that they're earning from here. So, can that also be done, or the branches need to be earning from the same source of income, which is photography itself?
Oh, yeah, you can do whatever you like. The only thing to consider is like if you have an LLC, Sue
Mhm.
Smith Photography,
Okay.
anything under that, let's say
Yeah.
something happens, say maybe you have a coaching brand. If
Yeah.
something happens like a lawsuit in that coaching brand, it affects the entire, everything's together still.
Got it.
So
Got
if
it.
you need liability, like something, a lot of our clients purchase studios or buildings, and then
Mhm.
they'll have a studio and they'll rent it out. So we have two books for them. We have two different LLCs. We have, usually their photography is an S corp and they're on payroll, and they
Got
have
it.
an LLC for the building for insurance. If there's an accident, a fire, whatever, it's not going to affect this stuff. It's separate.
Got it.
And then they pay themselves rent, and they own these two different businesses too. So there's a lot of strategy behind these things,
Yeah,
but
of course.
it can all be broken down, and you can see how it's, even though we've specialized in photographers, it's still
Mhm.
not like one size fits all. It's like, what state are you in? What do
Absolutely,
you shoot?
absolutely.
How do you deliver? Yeah, there's a lot.
Definitely. I mean, in the taxes itself, there's a lot, plus photographers as well, because everyone's not running the same business and everyone would not have the same books. So you cannot even, imagine it all look like, of course, one size won't fit all, as you said. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So while you're like, talking about keeping the personal and the business expenses separate and maybe paying rent or being on the payroll as well. So what do you recommend is the easiest way to actually document your expenses or income as well for taxing purposes?
Yeah, so I actually have a YouTube video on this. The one thing
Okay.
you can do that make your life easy, and it's simple. It's just get a separate bank account. I mean, there's a lot you can do, but let's start there. Even if you're like, I think I might do this. I'm playing around with this idea. Just go, even if it's a personal account, I really don't care. I just want a place where you can say, okay, I'm going to put $500 in here of my personal money, which is called an owner contribution, and I'm going to start this business because now it's tax time. Let's just say, I mean, how many people here spend tax time going through every statement, trying to figure out what's what, feeling like you're missing expenses? It's just exhausting. This way, at bare minimum, this is not ideal. I would eventually love for you to have an accountant. I would eventually love for you to have real bookkeeping, but at least you could go to your bank account, download it to a CSV, and you have every single deposit and every single expense in there, and you can start to turn that into something quickly to give to your tax person.
Got
That
it.
is seriously change your life, because trying to go through everything between personal business can be exhausting. And the
Got
other
it.
side of that would be if you are mixed like that, you
Mm-hmm.
know, the sooner you can get that moved over into one thing and organize everything that's mixed as
Yeah.
this, and kind of have a note. What is it? Who did I pay? How much was it? And then maybe this was on my personal American Express. So if you're audited, this is huge.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, I remember that I have that expense and it was from my personal card, and you can go find it, versus trying to figure out like, oh my God, where did that come from 4 years later or something, So that's one real way to simplify things. Um, I get a lot of questions on receipts and stuff. And so we don't have our clients give us receipts, but I do the same thing. Is I put all my receipts, I have a folder for the year, and my receipts are in there by month. that go with my expenses. If I'm audited, I have them. But there's a lot of things you can do. I mean, we use QuickBooks for all of our clients, but you can actually scan your receipts into QuickBooks if you'd like. You could, I don't know that I like that as much as maybe just creating electronic folder system so you can search, which would make life easier. Plus that heat ink, kind of fades over time. The IRS is, they're kind of lame. And then we were talking about who keeps paper receipts anymore, but they are all about the paperwork. But you want to make sure you have all that stuff to prove it out. You need to keep all that stuff. The general rule is 3 years from the day you file that return. So if you filed 2022 taxes from 3 years from the day that you filed it, you want to keep receipts. I'm going to say 7 because there are a few scenarios where you may have certain things that require 7. So keep it for 7 and just keep it tucked in your drawer with your tax return. And when the 7 years is up, you can shred that baby. I do see some good questions here that kind of relate. So the startup costs, you can only start deducting things in the year you start doing it. So a lot of times people will ask me this. They'll say, oh, well, it's 2023, but I started in 2022 with whatever. That's when you should have deducted it. So if it's worth it, you might want to amend last year's return if that's something that'll help you out. But then you can carry the startup costs. They're not depreciate, but you put them. I can't think of the word now. There's an accounting term, but they go over like so many years. You can break up your startup costs.
Does it get carry forward?
Yeah, you can take them forward. So let's say you had $50,000, like maybe you bought a whole building and you made a studio and you're going to rent a piece out. Like you could take that $50,000 and break it up. There's rules around this over how much over time so that you're not just taking it all now. And it's similar to depreciation. And so how far back can you deduct those costs if there is a period of time between those costs and your earned income? And so that's actually part of this question that people ask me all the time is, oh, well, I didn't have any income, but I got a new camera, I did all this stuff. Doesn't matter. You can have no income. You put in your expenses. You're going to have a loss. It'll actually help you on your personal taxes. And that's fine for the first couple of years. If you're losing money, you're starting a business. So don't think just because you don't have income that you don't need to file. If you have or if you've filed the LLC and you've had one expense, like start there. Like the business exists.
Got it. Okay.
Expenses.
Okay. I hope Allison's question was answered. Amanda also has another question, so I'll just put it up there.
Yeah. What happens when you're deemed a failed business because you're still part-time and just starting out? So I'm not sure who's deeming you a failed business. I don't think that is something the IRS does. Maybe a little more clarity on that, because I definitely know people working part-time and full-time running photography business. As long as you have any income and expenses, that's a business. So let me know if she gives a little more clarity on that one. And then Allison said I didn't have a return because I didn't have income last year. So no income at all. I'm assuming no income at all, and maybe filing single, so there's no other income at all either. So give me some clarity on that, and I can kind of help.
So it was a follow-up on the question to the one she sent before, because she has startup costs that she wants to sort of
off.
You don't have a income in the last year. So I believe you answered that, you can still file for the expense and the deduction even if you did not have an income, right?
Yeah, you can have a loss.
Got it. Okay. I think, Amanda, you just need to elaborate more on the question. And Allison, if you have any follow-up questions, go ahead and ask them. In the meantime, I'll have to stop our questions free, and there's actually just a little game that I need you to play. So everybody in the comment section. In the meantime, I'll just take Heather or take Tiffany and just start playing the game. Okay. Awesome. So do you see the screen?
Yes.
Awesome. Okay. I'll just tell you what it is. Now, basically, when I move to the next slide, you're going to see 2 pictures. One is edited by the photographer himself, and the other picture is edited in the same profile as the photographer by FilterPixel edits. So we've been playing this game with all our experts.
This is great. I like this. I see where we're going.
We've been playing this game with all of our experts before. In case you lose, there's a small dare. In case you win, FP edits, just use it. So that's like the score. And Yeah, and we basically just launched FilterPixel edits like on 20th June. So 10 days back was our public launch, but we've been like privately doing the beta test since the last 1.5 month, I would like to say. But yes, now it's publicly launched and everybody's giving feedback and getting so excited about it. So now is actually the first time, like this is the first live that I am doing after the edits launch. So this is much more exciting to see because sometimes people in the comments also hop in and they're trying to guess, okay, this one's by edits, okay, this one's by the photographer. So just going to go ahead. Are you ready? Should I just
Yeah, I'm
go
ready.
ahead?
I'm
Yeah.
excited.
Perfect. Here you go.
So am I saying right or left? So I'm guessing which one is by FilterPixel?
Which one's by FilterPixel AI? Yeah, just say right or
I
left.
think I think they're right.
Right? Okay. Anybody in the comment section audience as well can just keep on jumping in and let us know what do you think, left or right is AI. Okay.
I feel like I want
You
to change
can
my
go
answer.
ahead.
I'm like studying them.
You can't do that. You're Tiffany, you're the calculative person.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure the left
You
is
go
FilterPixel.
left is filter pixel. Okay. And you were right the first time, but
Oh,
no.
dang it. I doubted myself. Okay.
Yeah, see,
I
I
was trying
told
to
you
look
you
at the
should not
lighting.
change your answer. Okay, we'll move to the next one. And yeah, I'll just try to zoom in a bit for this one if you'd like.
It's a little bit grainy, so I'm giving it a second so I can tell. It's hard to...
Okay.
I feel like oh yeah, the left is FilterPixel.
The left is filter pixel. Okay. And you're right. Okay.
Okay, okay.
Are you just like guessing or are you actually seeing a difference?
No, I'm looking back. Yeah, I'm looking at the lighting and I'm like, when I
Yeah,
look
yeah,
back and forth, the left has a bright, like, it's more vibrant from the person, not like
yeah.
light on them, but like out of them. I can't explain it.
No, I get that. So it's basically like looking at the background more, which is actually causing a bit of a difference. And this is
Mm-hmm.
actually just not an expert profile that we have right now. This is actually the photographer's expert profile itself. So we actually took
Mm.
images from the photographer. So he's created his own style, his own editing style. And right now, after the public
Oh.
launch, there are already three expert profiles up there. One is a documentary style, one is timeless, adores. We have bright and airy, and the filmy documentary, all of those things as well. Okay, I'll move on to the next picture. So it's one all, and yeah, there you go.
I'll give it 1 second because as soon as it clears up from like
Yeah,
the
sure.
graininess, it's like kind of obvious.
Absolutely.
I'm just like I'm going back and forth. I'm very serious. I'm very serious about this. Let me see. Okay, I think. Mm, I want to. I want to say it is the left again.
Left. You
I
sure
think
no
it's the
changing
left
this time?
again. I'm not sure, but I definitely feel like the left has less shadowing and stuff. I'll go
Okay.
with
Okay.
left. That's my final answer.
Let's just check that because even I don't have my answer template here. I get as surprised as you when I see the results. It's right.
Yes, look at
Okay.
that.
Okay. So this is the last one. Either it's going to be a tie or you're gonna win.
Oh,
Okay, there you go.
oh, the pressure. Let's see. It's still grainy, so let me see.
Okay, Greeny.
It takes a second, then all of a sudden it clears up, and then
Got
I
it,
can
got
really
it.
tell. I just look back. I feel like I have this whole process of looking back and forth to see what makes sense. This one's so close. I can almost not tell.
Yeah, if you just Like stare at the background long enough, then
Yeah, I think
I believe you're gonna get this right. I have that feeling.
I think it's the I think it's the right. I think the right is FilterPixel.
I think you're right. Yep. For some reason, I just remember this photo so well. So you're right.
I did it.
Okay, so
It's pretty amazing though. It's pretty
yes,
amazing.
you're the first guest who's actually won. We've had one tie, and everyone
Oh,
else has just lost in the starting. So, yay, you're the first one who's actually won this.
awesome.
But the idea of this
I'll
is
take my
just to show.
trophy. No.
I'll send it over. Oh, okay. The idea of this was just to show that how much long the photographer actually spent manually editing it, and how the AI is actually able to
Absolutely.
do it within a minute or two right after, like, you import your photos in and it's done. So Ayush is here.
Absolutely.
Ayush is actually the CEO of FilterPixel. He's here. He's saying she won. It's the first
Aha.
time anybody's ever won. So he's the one who always keeps the score, and he's just so happy when anybody loses.
Well, the thing too, though, is that, this is something when it comes to finance and stuff that a lot of photographers don't realize when they do their pricing. The time
Yeah,
is not the time of the shoot. That's really the small part. It's all this other time, and you're editing and you're
absolutely.
taking hours and culling and doing all that stuff, and that takes a lot. Or even if you contract it out, you're still paying someone else's time to do that. So
That's true.
this is awesome.
I mean, even if the shoot or the session itself takes time, let's say they do go to a wedding and spend 8 hours on it, but it's something that they love to do, and that is why they started doing it. So it doesn't really feel like an overwhelming task or an action to do. But all other things, they just did not sign up for it, but that's what they have to do because of their passion, which is photography. So culling,
No,
editing,
totally. Or
capturing.
the more you take, maybe you can take more shots because you're not so overwhelmed with how much editing you'll do later or
Yeah,
culling. You'll get all the good
exactly.
shots. Totally.
Exactly. Okay, awesome. So I'll just turn this off, be back, and Amanda did actually have a follow up question, so we'll just go back to that once.
Yeah, I did see that before we were on the game there. Yeah, so
Okay.
I think she's basically asking what happens if they say that you are a quote unquote hobby. So they'll just send you a letter and you actually can appeal it. Just so you know, anything the IRS ever sends you, you can appeal it. So you can then appeal it and say, no, 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 this isn't a hobby. I am trying to profit, and you'll have to prove that out to them. But it takes something for them. It takes a bit for them to tell you that you're a hobby. They're just because they don't want you to just keep being able to like have a loss. So you're
Mhm.
losing money, but the money you lose transfers to your personal return. So I should say this, your return unless you're an S corporation, S corporations and partnerships have a separate return, but the separate return still has a sheet that comes off and goes to your personal return. So everything, it's called a flow through entity. Everything you can do except for C corporation, which we don't work with. That's like Target, that's like Starbucks, big C corporations.
Okay.
Any kind of other entity flows through to your personal return. So those losses, just think, even if you had a full-time job and then you're losing, $20,000 a year to photography, it's lowering your taxes and you're getting money back from your money, you're paying less tax. So they basically want to make sure that you are paying the taxes you should be paying, and they will let you know. And if they let you know that, then you can appeal it with them. And worst case scenario is they'll deem it a hobby, and so you can no longer file returns for that business. I hope that helps.
Okay. Can you hear me fine? Because I just lost you there for a second.
Yeah, you kind of switched spots. It was weird. It was just me, and then you switched spots, and now
Ah,
you're back in
no
the other
me.
spot. I thought you were playing like musical windows.
No me, no me. It's just the software doing something. Okay, never mind. Okay, now coming to my favorite questions, which is basically the deductions or what can be written off when it comes to your business. So, what are the few
Mhm.
expenses? And I know there are a lot of expenses that people really don't know that can be written off. So, can you just give me like a generic list and some, like, maybe in a very just quickly list it out that what are the things that can be included as deductions, sort of.
Yeah, so I'll tell you that we have a free guide on our website for this that goes through everything, and the guide's really comprehensive. It links to some YouTube videos talking about different things. Um,
Just going to
And
find
the
that right
biggest thing, yeah, the biggest thing I would say are what are the things that you can't deduct that a lot of people think you can? And
now.
so donations is one. There's no such thing as business donations, friends. I know everyone's like, what? Donations go on your personal tax return, or if you're a C corporation, but you're not. So I have like a lot of clients who are like pet photographers, right? And they'll do events where they like donate money to the SPCA or something. So you have to structure that differently. But I talk about that in the guide, and there's a YouTube video and stuff. But that's one. There's no you can't deduct donations. You can't deduct clothing is a weird one. A lot of people want to deduct things because they're like, well, I work weddings, so I have to have this formal dress or whatever. And you have to prove that that clothing is like you're not wearing it anywhere else, right? So
Okay.
a good example is like we have a client that has photo booths. Photo booths. That's all she does. So all of her attendees wear like a logo shirt. Well, that is deductible because her logo's on it. But if it's something that you would wear somewhere else, it is not deductible. Again, I go into more detail about that. I'm trying to think, there's a handful that always surprise people. Obviously, you can deduct anything to do with photography. Think about anybody you're contracting. Any software that you're using, your accountant. My favorite deduction is your accountant. Uh, and so let me end this thinking top of my head. I'm looking at that guide in my mind. I feel like there's one more big one that people don't realize you can't deduct. Meals is an interesting one. So there used to be something called meals and entertainment.
Okay.
So like people would buy, this is not really photography specific, but I had an old insurance guy I used to do taxes for, and he would take people and buy like seasons tickets to like football games and take clients to the game. So that was a big lavish thing. And you bet the IRS knows it was probably the most abused deduction. So now it's no longer meals and entertainment. In 2018 just became meals. But even then, the meals have to be with somebody. So it's like I can't just say I'm running to a wedding and I have to go to this place after. So I had a meal. Your meal has to be with like a contractor, a second shooter, somebody talking about business. And even then, you have to have the receipt, and the receipt needs to say who was with you. I don't make these rules. And you only get to deduct 50% of that meal. So just so you know that part. Travel is one a lot of people don't realize. Like travel, when you travel, those meals, if you're traveling away from home far enough to stay overnight, you have a hotel, and that is all business. If it's 100% business, right? So those meals are deductible 100%. Hotel, your airfare, whatever. Then I get the question, well, we're going to Hawaii and I'm going to shoot this wedding, but then I'm taking 3 days with my husband. So can be done. It's very intricate, but you need to record all your costs. You need to know what are directly for your business and what were for the whole trip. And then you divide that by percent. Like if one whole day was the wedding out of 3, then 1/3 of your stuff could be deducted. And you want to have a really, I kind of want to make this a template. It's not there yet. It doesn't exist, but I kind of want to make a downloadable template for this. And then you have all your receipts for that. You're golden. So, but travel is one I think a lot of people forget about. Mileage is the huge one. Mileage right now, I don't know the rate right now off the top of my head. I think it's like 65 cents a mile. So just think about every 2 miles you drive is like over $1 back in your pocket, $1.20, $1.30. So mileage is one people don't do because they start out in January like, okay, I'm going to track all my mileage. And then by February, they're over it and they don't do that. So there are all kinds of apps to track your mileage in. QuickBooks has one built in even. That's a huge one and you get dollar for dollar back for that, just right off. So, I mean, if that's one thing. Home office deduction is another. So if you work in a home office space, like many entrepreneurs and even many photographers, you can deduct the percentage that you use. So let's say that your house is 1,000 square feet and 500 square feet is where you have a studio and your office. That's 50%. So now you can deduct 50% of your rent or 50% of your mortgage interest, 50% of your utilities. I do have a worksheet for that. And I think there's a blog post that connects to that somewhere. But yeah, so those are things that a lot of people, they take a little work to track, which is why a lot of people like give up and don't track them, but you're leaving money on the table. So, but there is way more than that in that guide for sure.
There is.
Some photography specific stuff.
Yeah, I tried to find it and I've like linked it just below your courses. I see the guides. So, I'm going to start that list soon after this. Okay,
Yes.
awesome. So The next question is actually a bit of crucial one, which I actually saw on your guide as well right now. So, because people are from different regions and they tend to have different state taxes, so how do you deal with that? And if you're a wedding photographer or someone who's always traveling and going for different sessions, like a destination photographer, so how does that change for them as well?
So for destination photography, so in our sales tax, it only affects sales tax.
Okay.
But we have the top part of the guide, or the top part of each state sheet has like what it is for your state that you're in. And the
Got it.
bottom, I think it says destination shoot or something like that. It kind of goes over, if you're traveling into that state, what the rules are. Some states are picky and they say, if you come into our state and you shoot a wedding or you do anything, you have to register for sales tax.
Okay.
Or and then you would collect it, and then you'd have to cancel it, or then file 0 reports every time that you're not there. Or some states say you can do a one-time sheet, like one-time filing. But again, a lot of this is on the honor system, right? Because no one really knows you're going there. But I totally believe in community over competition, but it will be another photographer who's like, she keeps coming here and shooting weddings and not doing sales tax right, because I'm sure you know how I know you guys know clients are, because sometimes clients will be like, how come so and so doesn't charge me sales tax but you do? It happens all the time, and it's explaining
Yeah.
and educating your clients. In fact, having a small spot on your website with your pricing that explains the tax laws for your state so that people are clear, because they get pushed back all the time. But yeah, so you have to be mindful of those things. We have a lot of clients who live like on border cities and do weddings in like 3 different states. And so we just try to help them track in each state with what's going on and what the rules are, because what's taxable in one state might not be taxable in the other. Again, something we create for our clients is a tax cheat sheet. So they like, no, if I'm in Maryland and I go here, we kind of get their scenarios down. Talking about independent contractors, second shooters, is that, I'm going to make
That
sure,
is a question,
is that where we're
but
at? Try
are
to
you
make
trying to
sure
read
where
the
we're
question in
at.
the comments? Okay, I'll just put it here.
Yeah, I think that answers that. I'm not sure where we're at in this thing. Are there any specific states that are lenient in comparison to others when it comes to taxes? I wouldn't say lenient, but I would say my I would say simplified would be a thing, because they all want their money. But a good example is like Texas. Texas, I love Texas. Um, I'm in New York, so New York and California are like the worst when it comes to taxes. I'm surprised they don't tax the air I breathe sometimes, but like Texas, everything is taxable and it's all based on the business. So it's one rate for everybody.
Got
Easy
it.
peasy, track it all, makes it easy. Honestly, when you have to start going, well, this is taxable and that one's not. Um, I think all states are similar with sales tax. They want their money. They really do. And
Yeah.
what are some of the ways to realize, how will they know? The biggest thing is if you file a DBA or an LLC, if you're a sole proprietor and you're just doing your own little thing on the side, like freelancing, we'll call it, and still income, taxable income, but they don't really know about it till you report it.
Okay.
However, if you file an LLC or a DBA, they know you exist now. So if you are a year later saying, "Oh, I need to do sales tax," you need to go back to the day you started that LLC, because if you don't, you may get audited, because they'll be like, "Well, how come you started collecting sales tax in the middle of 2023, but you started this LLC in January of 2022? What happened to those months?" So don't think they won't go back. So we do that with clients. We kind of figure out what's the furthest back point to go to match up with that, which is not fun. But once you're compliant, you sleep better at night. Trust me. I hope that answers that a little bit.
Absolutely. So I like, while you were saying that, I had a follow-up question to it. So because there are
Mhm.
rules which tend to change for different photography, let's say not even photography industry, but for different people who are doing different things, that rules who tend to which tend to change, and also the dates, and also sometimes the percentage that you have to pay tax on, or the deductible items as well. So what's the best resource that you would recommend for people out here to just follow, or somewhere like they can actually read about all of this? Is there anything? Is there any place as such?
Do you mean like my stuff, or
Whatever you
for
recommend.
their?
To be
Well, like
honest,
in our
I
tax
know
guide, we
you
do have references. So for each state on the bottom, I
okay.
give you links to where we got that. And most of that is state websites. So like on the bottom, you'll find links to like the Texas publication for photographers. A lot of states do that.
Got
Is
it.
nice. That they have a complete guide that's like, if you're a photographer, here's the rules. But not all states do. And then it's like very gray because it's like if they leave it gray enough, you're never really sure.
Yeah.
So we try to break that down. But yeah, I would say another website resource I do link to in some of my stuff that I absolutely love is
Okay.
llcuniversity.com. It is the coolest thing. It is a guy, I can't forget his name, but he literally has broken down the LLC rules for filing annual reports, like anything you want to understand. He even goes over, a lot of people will say, well, I want to create my LLC in Delaware because that's like less tax. And he explains how that's a pro and con and really that it's not what people think it is. But I use his references all the time. And he links directly to all the different pages for the states, for the different things that you need. So that's another good reference for that kind of stuff too.
Got it, got it. That's what I needed to know because sometimes people tend to get confused that where do I even go? And let's say
Yep.
some of these government websites and also other platforms are not so easy to understand and handle as well and to navigate. So, that
I
was
know
the
when you Google something and then it's just pages and you're like,
yeah. Yeah. And sometimes
I
they're like
try to,
PDFs with the contracts actually inside it, and you have to really go search that line which you're looking
yeah.
for. So you never really get the answer.
And I
So
would say, like, when you Google anything to do with any kind of tax, make sure that it is you go to the links that are from the state that you're looking
yeah.
for or the IRS. I mean, there definitely are other photographer sites I found that were like they kind of give some stuff, but you really want to get the stuff directly from the source. And the other thing is too, we do this sometimes is we just call them. We've
Yeah.
just called them and say, okay, look we have this scenario. If the client lives here and they're going here, this is what they're doing. They only have digital prints. Like walk through it, get the badge number, get the name of the person, and go with that as your feedback.
Absolutely, like next right actually, which we do not even know. Some of them are not even authentic. So we might just fall into a trap of okay, what tax has really to be paid and what are the rules. So all of these. And I know in today's time there's someone out there who is catering to some of the other segments. So just like you mentioned, you as well as the another side that you mentioned, it was LLC school. Sorry, I forgot.
University, llcuniversity.com.
Yeah. Okay, perfect. I'll note that down and send out the link as well. And another question here while talking about the
Mhm.
rules and everything. So, are there any records or documentation that we as a photographer should maybe record while we conducting an expense to file deductions later?
Yeah, kind of like what we talked about earlier. Like, so the receipts. So just making sure
Yeah,
you have receipts for everything. Some way, just think I always look at it like this. If the IRS was like, well, what is this expense? Where did it come from? That you have that
okay,
documentation somewhere. You don't necessarily need to put it in anything, but again, I think electronically organizing stuff makes it more searchable.
got it.
But will need that, and you'll need to keep it for 7 years after you file that return. So even if you file that return a year late, now you start the 7 years then. Okay.
Okay, got it. Okay, I have my last question ready. Anybody in
Mhm.
the members, if you have any other questions, any
Yeah,
personal thing that you need to ask, just
for
go
sure.
ahead. Okay, I do know a lot of wedding photographers who have associate shooters or second shooters who they've employed. Or again, I asked this question before as well of people who are into coachings or also they have affiliate links. Let's say they're earning for affiliate marketing and doing collaborations because they're influencers or photographers who are earning through sponsorships and collaborations. How do they actually account for their taxes?
Yeah. So what we do for our clients is, first of all, that's all earned income.
Yeah,
We actually, in the bookkeeping, we just have different income accounts. So we might have Bridgewater, we might have maternity, and then we have affiliate income, and then we might have second shooter income. And if you're second
got
shooting for other people, have them pay your business, not you.
it.
But
Got it.
even if they are paying you, you just have to remember those forms that they issue you at the end of the year will be either to you and your social security number, which is where you report it, or to you business and your tax ID, which is where you report it.
Okay.
I feel like on the flip side, though, make sure that if you are hiring anyone, and hiring is a hard word because you have to be really, really clear. And I have a blog post on this, but employee versus contractor, you don't get to choose. It's not like I'm going to contract them. There are legal things you have to consider for both of them in order for it to be compliant with the IRS.
Okay.
But let's say it's a contractor like VA, anybody that you pay rent to, if you pay rent for a studio, um, any attorney's fees that you pay. I'm trying to think of the other ones. Those are the weird ones. Then if you have like a business coach that you're paying, if you have second shooters, anything like that, makeup artists, whatever, that is all contracted quote unquote labor, and you have to get a W-9 from them, and then you're going to issue them a 1099. And I cover all that. There's various blogs, and I promise everything you need is on the website. But really, that's really another kind of sticky spot people don't realize, and they kind of get into it and they're like, wait a minute, and you just want to be mindful. Don't call your contractors employees. Don't say their paycheck. You really want to be clear, because contractors are essentially working for themselves and they're contracted to you. They should be able to do the job. You're not training them. Again, there's a bunch of rules, and I have a link somewhere in either my blog post about it that actually goes to an IRS test you can take. So you can like answer questions and they'll say that's a contractor or that's an employee for you. So, but that's a huge one. People on both ends, photographers can be the contractor and they contract people, to really kind of make sure you understand a little more clearly.
Okay, awesome. I know you do have a lot of resources that, to be honest, I'm not able to find right now. I just actually like your
No,
courses
it's okay.
as well as the guides here. But the blog, I haven't linked it. So what I'm going to do is, I know a lot of people also have another questions as well, because they're follow-up or something. They
Sure.
might just come and like want to ask you. So what I'm gonna do is just drop a link to your Facebook community, because I believe that's the best way to
Oh,
reach
yes.
people. Yeah, awesome. So I'll do
These are the
that.
kinds of questions I answer every day in there. I feel like it's like
Okay.
Dear Abby. Do you know Dear Abby? Am I aging myself? It's like the Dear Abby for taxes.
So I am a part of that group, so I know, and that is why I thought that's the best to actually drop in your group link
Mm-hmm.
here. So everybody who's here, I've dropped it. Just join it, and you can just ask her all these questions there itself, and she like will send a reply you anytime.
Yes, I will help you.
Yeah. And if you have any
Awesome.
questions right now, we're available
Yeah.
too. And Tiffany, if you want to cover something that we missed or something that's important and we did not really talk about, go ahead and do that. Yeah.
I think we hit it all, but it's just really knowing, it's like, those things that I mentioned, just sort of make sure you have an understanding, because they will affect you, or you may
Yeah.
not realize you're in that situation. I think the biggest one still is when people are like, wait a minute, I'm a business. I didn't know, so making sure you understand that and start accounting for it
Yeah.
properly.
Yeah. No, definitely. This is a very like intricate and detailed work that needs to be like taken care of so well, because it tends to have so many implications if we do not do it well. And
True.
like we
And like
started with,
I
yeah.
don't know if this is, I think it's just United States that's doing this, but
Okay.
there's been a lot of talk about, there's these, 1099s, 1099Ks, so $600 or more. That's going to happen for all, like PayPal, all of that this year. It was supposed to happen last year. It's happening this year. But there's been talk about them trying to monitor bank accounts and like
Oh, okay.
so to think about, if you start having all this income and it's not explained, I'm not saying, I don't know when this is happening, but there's been a lot of talk about it. I'm sure there's going to be pushback, but that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to make sure people are not just freelancing and not counting it, or you know what I mean? And so you just got to be mindful so that you're compliant and you don't have to worry about, we'll call them big brother coming for you. Like
Got it. Okay. Awesome. So we will wrap this up here. That was our
yeah.
1 hour. I really hope everybody who joined in was able to get the most out of the session. Tiffany, you were amazing. So thank you for being here.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Mastered accounting as well. I know Tiffany from the last 6 months, and I know she's a powerhouse when it comes to all things taxes and accounting, which I do
Aw.
not understand at all. So these terms were, a bit difficult for
It's
me to
job
understand.
security.
That's true. That's true. Okay, awesome. So I've linked everything here. If you guys do need anything else, just comment down here. We'll also provide a recording of this chat. So if you need to refer back and just see all the questions that you asked, it'll be available anytime.
Awesome. Thank you, everybody.
Okay. Thank you, everybody. All right. Bye bye.
Head over to filterpixel.com where you can sign up and get started now.